the deal, as you understand it, on the table between Democrats and President Trump to put new restrictions on ICE are enough for you to vote yes tonight?
Well, remember, this is only the first step in getting those restrictions in place. We've got 6 funding bills. The Democrats have said 5 can go forward, but that 6th one that includes ICE funding, no, that one has to stop. And we're going to put some serious restrictions in place before ICE gets more money.
You're obviously counting, though, on to have another bill to vote on in the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
This is a 2-week CR. The president says he's on board with some Democratic demands. No masks, body cameras, additional training. Will you get all of those?
Look, the bottom line is to say that ICE officers have to act like every other officer in public safety. If our officers in Massachusetts, in Boston, and in Springfield, and all across Massachusetts, and all across this country, can abide by an ordinary set of rules that anybody can see their face, everybody knows their name, and if there's an officer involved shooting, there's an independent investigation. Those are the things we're asking for here with ICE. ICE is out of control. ICE is marching down the streets saying they own the town, they own the streets. They push citizens, they kick in people's front doors to their homes. And of course, we've seen the shootings in broad daylight. We have to put a stop to this, and the United States Congress is the place to do that.
You support targeted enforcement of criminals, as the president promised, the worst of the worst, or however he put it, and you see these as 2 different things when you have roving squads of ICE officers in an American city.
You know, the big promise that Donald Trump made was he was going to keep us all safer. And he claimed he was going to do that by getting the worst of the worst. Those were his words. People who had criminal histories who were putting us at risk. Instead, it's turned exactly on its head. ICE itself is putting American citizens at risk. And we got to put a stop to that. And I want to put in one more pitch. I talked to a lot of police officers, and they say to me they've worked hard to build up credibility in their communities, to make sure that their officers are fully trained in how to deal with crowds, how to deal with protesters, how to deal with people who disagree with them. And then they turn around and watch ICE just burn down every bit of credibility that those police officers have been building. They're pretty unhappy about it, too.
I want to ask you about Kevin Warsh, but just to be clear, is 2 weeks enough time, and do you need to see Kristi Noem no longer the head of Homeland Security?
So look, I've been calling for Kristi Noem to be pushed out of there.
Should that be part of a deal?
I would love to see that as part of a deal. But the core of what we're asking for here, it shouldn't take us 2 hours to write this and put it together. It's abide by the same sets of restrictions
so 2 weeks
that
is plenty.
Every other public safety officer abides by.
You have big questions for Kevin Warsh. I don't know if you saw this one coming. We thought maybe it would be one of the Kevins, and here we are. The president has made it clear Tom Tillis is standing in the way of this nomination, and it sounds like there are several members of the banking committee who have some big questions. Does he support this criminal investigation into Jay Powell?
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Because here's the fundamental question. Do we really have a nominee who will be independent of the president? And as you know, the reason we talk about Fed independence is because we want a Federal Reserve that's making decisions on things like interest rates based on their best assessment, whether you agree with them or not, their best assessment of the economics of what's happening in the country, what the data show, not based on politics. Because every president will be tempted to say before an election, ooh, let's cut those interest rates and juice the economy, even though it has terrible long-term consequences for families and will drive down job formation and drive up prices. So Donald Trump has made clear he does not want an independent Fed. He wants a Fed that acts like a sock puppet for him. He has threatened to fire Jerome Powell. He started a bogus investigation of another member of the Fed, Lisa Cook. And he has said openly he will not name anyone to be Fed chair who does not agree with Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to be calling the shots. In other words, he said he wants a sock puppet, and evidently Kevin Warsh just passed that test.
Well, he's a known entity. You've probably had some conversations, I'm guessing, over the years with Kevin Warsh. Is he a hawk or a dove? I keep seeing the word reinvented, new styling.
You got it exactly right. This is what troubles me about him. For 15 years, The man has been a hawk. Remember, he's been on the Fed before.
Yes.
Back during the 2008 crash, when millions of people were losing their jobs and economists were across the country were saying, lower those interest rates. He was the guy who kept saying, raise the interest rates, keep them up. He has been known as an interest rate and inflation hawk for years and years, right up until Donald Trump wins the presidency, makes clear that he wants a Federal Reserve chair who's going to lower interest rates. And suddenly it appears that Kevin Warsh has had an epiphany. And everything he thought in all those years beforehand, he no longer thinks. Now, you know what that says to me? It says to me that the guy is not independent, that he is willing to do whatever Donald Trump wants.
I know you need to go vote now and run back to the floor. Will you wait to have a hearing on this nomination until that investigation is complete?
I want to be clear. We shouldn't be having a hearing until Donald Trump has dropped this bogus investigation, frankly, both of Jerome Powell and of Lisa Cook. As long as Donald Trump is mounting a takeover of the Fed, all of the senators, Democrats and Republicans, who talk about independence of the Fed should say, we're not going forward with any nomination.